Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States. And of course, good morning to the entire world receiving our signals through the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? We the people, controlled by whom? Currently, the billionaires that we are going to wrestle it from. Anyway, before we get busy with the program, let's go real quickly to LS Studio, where our resident geniuses reside. Buenos dias, hermanos.
Well, Jack, have you seen those geniuses?
No, just Laurel and Hardy here today. I'm the monkey that pushes the button.
Well, Stanley, this is another fine mess you've got me into.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Egberto. It is Wednesday, January the 15th, halfway through the first month of the year 2025. And very interesting stuff going on as far as politics goes. The smokescreen continues with the Panama Canal, Canada, and Greenland. Oh, my goodness.
What are they stealing from us now?
Well, they're stealing our credibility. You know, if you go to war with these people, I'm not ruling out military takeover. Military takeover of Greenland? Seriously? It's just a smokescreen, people. He's not going to do anything.
It's that gaslighting he does. He keeps you looking in one direction while he steals your lollipops out of your pockets.
So that's what happened to him. Well, there was a couple of used ones in there, but they're a little sticky. Anyway, my foot itches. So, Jack, what do you got?
Oh, I think I got about a page and a half today.
I see that, man.
Man, busy. Let's get busy with it, brother.
I like Cuba, so it's a good topic that people don't really know the truth about. And a lot of why I think about it is from Stephen Kinzer. So Cuba was never a terrorist nation. The narrative around Cuba needs to be corrected. America wanted to help Cuba get rid of the Spanish rule, but the Cubans didn't know if they wanted American forces to help them if they would leave after the battle was over. So America drafted the Teller Amendment that promised American forces would leave after the Spanish were defeated. Well, a year after the Spanish were defeated, America changed its mind and denied Cuba their independence. After that, Cuba and the Cuban people were subjugated to serve the American tourist as America made Cuba into a Las Vegas-style arena where casinos and brothels and strip joints attracted American tourists to enjoy whatever vice they wanted. It was an American playground. This is what brought Castro to power when the Cubans took power and ownership of their country and ran the Americans out. Turn the page. The Americans started to demonize Castro and the Cubans and pushed them right into the hands of Russia, right into the hands of Khrushchev, because he had no other choice. So Cuba, like Haiti, is one of those countries that ran their colonizer off and have been paying the price for that ever since. That's why we demonize Cuba, and thanks for finally taking Cuba off the terror list, Joe.
Man, a little bit too late because, Trump is probably going to come in and put it right back on. But you know what? I'm glad that you went ahead and gave that historic lesson there, Jack. I mean, look, I'm from Central America, and Cuba is not viewed the same around Latin America as it is viewed in the United States. And this isn't because Latin America is some communist stomping ground or anything like that. Nothing like that. We just see the unfairness of what happens with Cuba. Cuba was made was made a model to say, if you don't do it our way, we're going to show that your way is going to fail. Let me first say that personally, I am not a communist. I think that, and I don't think Castro was a real communist either. I think America had an opportunity when the revolution took over. Because let me tell you, Batista wasn't a good guy. All right, and Cuba was a terrible. When Batista was in power, it was terrible. Let me just say something now. There were the group of folks out in Cuba that never had the opportunity, would have never been able to do anything. And even as bad as the scarce resources, etc., that Cuba had, not because of its economic system, but because of our blockade, it's still a country that was able to produce a higher percentage of doctors, a higher percentage of lawyers, a higher percentage of all these technical things, and people who looked like me, who were only floor sweepers or dancers or entertainers, could actually or finally had access to be a part of the entire society. So it behooves me why we think. Now, you speak to a whole lot of Cubans that were harmed by the takeover and the federalization of a lot of resources in Cuba. You understand their position, right? You understand why they hate Castro, because he nationalized all these different parts of the country, and which was, in their opinion, wrong, right? But I have a question for every single American. Every single American. Remember, first of all, don't color your thoughts by the false things that we were indoctrinated with. But I'm going to ask you a very simple question. We are a very large country. This country has a lot of natural resources: oil, uranium, carbon, a lot of rare metals, even though it's not spoken about a lot, lithium, a ton of stuff. This country has a lot of it on public lands, a lot of it on private lands. This country does. And my question to all of you is, why is it fair that something that was placed into these soils that gave this country ample resources, why is it that we have an economic system that allow a few to capitalize on that? In other words, on public lands where oil is drilled for, corporations who drill for that oil, they use it at will. They pay a small, and notice what I say, it's small fee for access to drilling and exploiting that fuel. But all those resources go to the shareholders, who generally are wealthy. Why is it that if you are wealthy enough to have purchased or ceded land, remember, a lot of these lands were back in the 1800s, early 1900s. The government just allotted land to people. And, a lot of these people, the land that they were allotted, they got what's called mineral rights for that land as well. So the fact that the government gave them land to expand the country, land that effectively wasn't theirs, and restricted who actually got the land, whom then became wealthy. Why is that fair? Let's look at West Texas. Look at the few families that own those humongous ranches, some of them larger than cities, with all the resources that's under that land. what makes it fair that ceded them that land, give them ultimate power in Texas, and this is something that can be replicated in Montana, Dakota, and all these other states. What makes it that it's fair for those people to be wealthy just because? I mean, there are a lot of questions like that we ask, and I tell you, I want to expand that from Cuba to Venezuela, etc. A different philosophy is that all the resources of a country should belong to everyone in that country. All the resources in that. And as we demonize any political system, any government that says we are going to take public lands and ensure that the resources from that public land goes towards the people. There's one thing we will always do as a country, as what our plutocracy does. And it makes sure that those countries are destabilized until their own plutocracy takes it over. That happens with Venezuela. That happened with Cuba. That happened with Guatemala. That happened with El Salvador. That happened with Haiti. That happened with Dominican Republic. So, and to put it bluntly, that happens to every country south of the border. Every country south of the border. We will not allow a government to exist that talks about land reform and talks about giving wealth of the land to the people. And it's understandable because the biggest fear is that we here in America are some of the ones that have been, yes, we're a rich country because we have we're a manufacturing country, especially after World War II, the world depended on us for our manufacturing base, etc. But my friends, my brothers and my sisters, suppose we saw another country, albeit a smaller country, who decided to democratize its natural resources. In other words, acknowledging that the natural resources of that country, that territory, belong to the people of that country, of that territory, and allocated it as it should. Imagine if Americans got that into their psyche, that all these companies that are mining on public lands that belong to us all, that income from those resources after expenses to those who exploit it should really be going into the coffers of we the people. Imagine if we got that notion and understand what our true worth should be. Imagine we wouldn't have to talk about redistribution of monies from the wealthy through taxes, because we would have started from a position of fairness, that the resources of that country should belong to those in that country and not to the few who have the capital to exploit it. Imagine. And one of the things why we don't allow critical thinking in our country, why we always try to demonize progressives who try to put these messages out, is because suddenly people start to realize, oh my God, we have been had. We don't want anybody else to see countries that decide to have a democratized economic system. We don't want that. A democracy, we have a popular democracy for things that are marginal. but our economic system is sure not a democracy. The exploitation of our resources, they're sure not a democracy. And the biggest fear of our plutocracy is that somehow Americans wake up and realize that they've been had. And you know what? The day of reckoning is coming. When you hear Nick Hauser talk about the pitchforks, one of these days, Americans will wake up and they're going to ask the question, my God, why did we allow the few to take advantage of the many for so long? How did we allow a rich country to let people go bankrupt from healthcare? How did we allow a rich country to not be able to educate all of its citizens and explode and exploit the productivity that it would have if we had a more educated population? At some point, we're going to ask that question. Luis, line 1, come on in.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am fine. Talk to me, my brother.
Okay, good. Well, you're hitting a subject that I think about too. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the U.S. government, okay, regarding the Spanish-American War, because my family has been affected on that. But on the other side of the world, the Philippines in 1898 was also promised independence. And that's why I do believe my brothers and sisters are with the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, and what has happened back then. The Philippines also had to fight against America for independence. And I'm so glad that on the first chance, they voted for independence, but they had resources. And I know they can do it as an independent, but I guess Cuba, Puerto Rico would have more of a hard time because it's a small island country. But I respect their want of independence. Regarding Greenland, oh my gosh, we have to stop our government taking over that land just for resources and the territory. Just like they use the Philippines for territory because of the location. The people in Greenland, leave them alone. You know, we should leave them alone. Panama, that's their land over there. They're not doing anything to us. America, this thinking of being a colonizer again, I heard it from a friend this past weekend. What do you think about Greenland? And I can't believe that they're talking about resources only. Leave that alone. That's not ours. And I agree with you. Let's look at Norway. They're putting money back to their people regarding from
the
their
North Sea oil. Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. So we should be doing the same thing. You're right. We are rich, and everyone is working like a dog. We should benefit from it. And I wish the government had given those land, but with, let's say, the government gets 50% of the mineral rights later on. Let them work on it, but we get it forever, also. Instead of the U.S. government, I've seen it back in the 80s in the newspaper, land leases for oil is like $1 an acre, something like that the U.S. government gives it up for nothing. That's all what I wanted to say.
Thank you, my brother. Exactly. I mean, the thing about it, let me just say, Luis, is that most Americans don't know this stuff. And one of the reasons they want to get rid of critical thinking and books is because when you start to think about the fairness of things, and people would think they try to cloak it as un-American. It's not. What's un-American is what our economic system is doing to Americans. That is what's un-American. And it's funny how we go ahead.
Excuse me. I know you said I'm not a communist. Me too. But I get accused of that also. Like, get out of here. Well, no, this is my country. I like being here also. And I work, I do what's right. And how can you accuse me? I am not a communist. I don't like communists. But, for the people, you're right. I don't understand it, but I'm glad that you're giving these info so that some Americans will start seeing the light of what's going on.
Look, I appreciate you, brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And please keep listening. Please remind people to tune into KPFT. Let them know that you have a station here where we actually spend some time talking practical stuff. Thank you, brother.
No, I do. Thank you again. Okay, I do.
You have a wonderful day.
Let them listen. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks, let's go to Brother Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
It's very easy to understand for that caller that just hung up. Very easy to understand what's going on here. The Republicans love to play games in terms of mind games, rhetorical games. What did Ronald Reagan do? He was the master of projection. And I'm not saying because he was a grade C actor, but he was the master of projection. What did he call other people? He called other people the evil empire, when in fact, we are the evil empire. We are functionally the evil empire. We're the ones that go around using our military might to take what doesn't belong to us because our corporate heads in this country, they are too lazy to want to bargain honestly and earnestly with peoples in other countries. So that when Venezuela decides that they want to nationalize their mineral resource, what do? We start the narrative of evil against them. We call them evil. We call them stupid. We call them incompetent. We did that with Cuba. We did that with Puerto Rico. We do that with every single country, like you said, every single country, and not just south of the border. We're talking about nations on the African continent. Any place that has something other than broccoli that we want, we need, that we're too lazy to bargain for, we just want to take it. But first, we got to demonize them, and we call people communists. They call you and me communists. No, they're the ones.
Things like I remember reading American history when I was in Panama, and I remember this thing called Manifest Destiny, right? And you have all these respected statespeople talking about manifest destiny. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if we respect that concept, if we believe in that concept from the 1800s, what Trump is talking about, even though I think he's blowing a lot of hot air, because we now don't have the resources to try to take Greenland from, hey, guess what? Greenland is Denmark. And we don't have the resources to go into Panama and really take Panama, because I'm going to tell you the difference between the Panamanians of 64 and the Panamanians of 2025 is, if America were ever to try to take the canal, there would be no canal. You see, there's a different brand of people out there, and that's the country I'm from. There is a different brand of Panamanians out there now. Panamanians used to be the people who thought about, dependency on the United States. Now they are I'm talking about the opposition now, much more militant. And if they were to attempt anything, Lake Madden and Gatun Lake would become a river again. The Chagres would become a river and not a lake. And without Lake Gatun and Lake Madden, there ain't no canal. So, I mean, Trump can say as he pleases, but it will never happen. Yeah.
I want to close with a visual. From the news a few days ago. I don't know if you caught it or not, but on the legacy media, they showed images of these Mexican firefighters all lined up on the tarmac, ready to go on the plane.
I saw that, yeah.
Our country to California, right? Sending Mexican firefighters. Cuba tried to send doctors and nurses with medical gear. They were ready to leave their tarmac, and and head over to provide relief to American citizens in Louisiana right after Katrina. But our Republican president at the time, George W. Bush, said no, because they're embarrassed. The Republicans are embarrassed to take help. They don't want to be shown up by a communist country, even though they're not communists.
Well,
this country ruled by our right-wing ideology is the problem. Everybody wants to help us, but to Joe Biden's credit, and you know I don't like him because he's a centrist, he didn't stop the Mexican country from sending their help over here. He accepted it, as far as I know. Unless you know otherwise.
No. Look, it's not only Mexico. I think I saw Saudi Arabian. I think I saw all kinds. A lot of folks are coming in to help, and that is goodwill. That is goodwill, and that's what we would expect. We do that. We want other people to do that because, again, there are expert firefighters all over the world. We can't take somebody out of Houston, Texas, and throw them in the forest, but we can take somebody out of experts out of other places to come and collectively do something. Hey, there's something to collectivism, man. Look, we ought to realize that we all do things better together than apart. But thank you very much, Johnny.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Great one. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick.
Hey, good morning. Earlier in the program, we were talking about resources, and they should be divided amongst the populace and all the countries. We used to do that here, and that was one of the reasons why we had a strong middle class, and we were able to build that, and that's why we were able to build highways, and that slowly got chiseled away, and it got hijacked or stolen one way or the other. One clever way is, well, if they lease off something in the federal lands, they make it so cheap for the corporation that it's not even worth the people giving it, receiving a check for it. Another thing I like to bring up, and I bring this up when people are excited about the voucher system, here in Texas, we had the wisdom to make rules and policies that took the dividends or the revenue from public lands. If oil was developed on a public land, that was supposed to go to the school fund.
It was called the Permanent University Fund. Yeah.
Now that everything is being privatized, what's going to happen with that? That's just one of the ways that they've hijacked what was supposed to be for us. So that's going to be a direct mainline into unregulated private schools now, just basically a gift.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Patrick, because there was a time when I moved to Texas, there was this thing called the PUC, the Permanent University Fund. That excess oil money that you're talking about went into that fund, and it funded the University of Texas system and the Texas A&M system. That's why those schools were so well funded, large, huge, But again, you're right. As things are privatized, as they do other things, there's will be less money going into these funds to do the public good, because again, we are moving everything from the public space to the private space. In other words, we're moving everything from us all to generate a new crop of parasites. Continue, my brother.
When that fund was working properly, it was my understanding that you could go to the University of Texas full time on what you could make in a summer job.
Oh, brother, let me tell you, I know the numbers. I know the actual numbers. In 1980, in-state tuition at the University of Texas was $4 a semester hour. Even if you extrapolate that to 2025, that's cheap. $4 a semester hour. As a foreign student, then I had to pay $40 an hour. It was 10 times what the in-state tuition was. But guess what? Even at 10 times in-state tuition, it was a bargain. That's why you'd hear me come on to this radio station and talk about believing in taxes and saying to the American folks, to the Texans, thank you so kindly, because Texas was a state where it did educate its people. The University of Texas, Texas A&M, and then they created an alternate fund when the other universities were complaining about the preferential treatment received by the University of Texas and Texas A&M. We also got I forgot what that fund is called, for the Texas State University and all the other public universities in Texas. But again, all of that is going away right in front of us because we buy into the conservative BS, which simply says, give us less, lift yourself up by the bootstrap as the private capitalists rape us all. Continue, my brother.
Well, I would just ask your listeners, the next time that somebody gets excited about the stock market going up, you can just tell them, well, yeah, but now I got to spend $25,000 a year to just have my kids to school. That's where that money went. All of our social spending is now going towards the stock market, and it does nothing for us. In fact, it arms and it funds the people that are destroying this country. There's a really good book. Everybody that found their resources after us ends up in a paradigm that's called the paradox of plenty, and there's a book on it. Mm-hmm. And what's very, very interesting is any country that is better off with their resources, oil, lithium, anything that you can mine, they actually develop slower than the countries around them that don't, because they don't have interest coming in here and taking advantage of them. That's right. Another thing to realize. And we're finally becoming one of those countries. They've gotten us to a point where they no longer have to go to a foreign country to rip people off. They just do it here.
There you go. Exactly.
This book, I recommend it. And then finally, sorry I'm going so long, but I'm getting frustrated when I keep hearing listeners say communist. These countries are not communist. Parties are communist. There's a communist party. Russia doesn't call itself communist. None of these countries call them communist. And if you go through the EU and other areas, there are communist parties that form coalitions with labor parties, green parties, and other things. They all work together, and they have very good ideas. And what they've been doing for the past 100 years is they've been honing and they've been fixing problems with socialism and with communism. And it's been getting better and better. And that's something that we can't even do with capitalism here. We can't ask the question, how can we improve capitalism? Because you get punched in the face here.
Critical thinking is what we are trying very hard not to have in this country. Thank you so kindly, Patrick. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Let's go to Ilan. Ilan, how you doing, Ilan?
Good morning. I have 3 quick comments. Egberto, I sent you a cartoon. It says Trump is like a squid. And the wording on it is, Trump is like a squid, tentacles with lots of loyal suckers, leaving inky smoke screens and chaos in his wake. He's always swimming backwards. I have a comment on Cuba, and that is, I was part of the Cuba Friendship Committee when I was a student at U of H in the 1990s. But we've been trading with communist Vietnam for well over a decade, and yet we still have Cuba on an embargo. And lastly, the thing about Greenland, Trump throws up these distractions, but if you go to Wikipedia, you'll see a very long article giving a complicated history of Greenland and its status with Denmark and many other entities. But the United States made a bid to buy Greenland for $100 million in 1940. So that's some food for thought there. And I'll let you get back to other callers. Thank you.
Well, thank you so kindly, Ilan. Very, very good point. Now, I mean, it's interesting that we make Cuba special in that we have an embargo on Cuba and because it's a communist state, etc. But by the way, yeah, we do business with China. We do business with Vietnam. And we can go country after country. There's a special thing with Cuba. Cuba is close by. Venezuela is close by. If people saw a functioning, I don't even want to call it a communist state, but a functioning socialist state with inklings of capitalism where capitalism work, it scares the bejesus out of folks, man. Because suddenly, if people start to look into something where we get some sort of equity, it scares the plutocracy. Thank you so kindly, Ilan. Ilan, let's go to Bruce.
Morning, Alberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, I'll be brief as usual. My uncle was a veterinarian for 50 years. He worked his way. He came from a poor family, 6 kids. He worked his way through Texas A&M, and you can't do that today. But with the NCAA having record viewership on their sports, football, etc., where is that money going? I mean, that should help out and bring tuitions down to almost nothing. Where's that money going? Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, my brother. I mean, the money goes to paying $1 million coaches. It goes to paying building $1 million buildings and $1 million. It was all going everywhere except to the student. Well, the students, I think I don't remember the entire story. But I know students, the NCAA is allowing students to monetize their likeness now. So there are a lot of students that are cashing in on their notoriety in college. Yes, most still don't play a sport or aren't good enough in a sport that are commercially viable. But for those who are, instead of that money simply going to the school and doing nothing else, I don't have a problem with it. But again, you raise a very important issue. There's a whole lot of money in big college sports, and there's a whole lot of money in our system that the truth of the matter is just like countries like Brazil and Germany can give their people free education from kinder right up into college, we can afford it. There's so much more that we as a country can afford, except that we decide that we are going to use an economic system that skews most of the income from our work, the wealth that we create, we steer it to a few. Elon Musk, $400 billion. Are you kidding me? He made none of it from his intellect. None. It is an economic system that skews toward capital. And if you can mobilize capital, you can get wealthy. And without doing much. The fact that he has the ability to run around at Mar-a-Lago and hang out with the president and do a whole bunch of stuff and play video games. He says, my best thoughts come when I'm playing video games. Thoughts about doing what? You can't learn about nuclear technology or changing or improving a battery from playing games and saying, oh, this idea comes to me. No, it takes studying. It takes dedication. And those of us with dedications are the ones who produce something of value. It doesn't happen like, oh, this genius, just something came into his head. No, if you're going to learn how to move electrons or you're going to learn how to do something, you're going to put the effort and the time into doing it. Elon Musk is no genius. Elon Musk is a capitalist. And if you are a capitalist and you are afforded the privilege of being a member of the club, then you can get wealthy. Anyhow, folks, I know you all heard about, and talking about getting wealthy, let me give Elizabeth Warren had a little piece that she did with Hegseth yesterday that talks about it all, that shows it all. I want you guys to listen to this part of the interview because it kind of breaks into what we're talking about here. Check this out. Once again, Elizabeth Warren did not disappoint. At the hearing for defense secretary, Elizabeth Warren got to a core issue with regards to the grifting that the Trump administration is always used to. Now, Trump is going to get his guy, Pete Hegseth, he's going to get him. He likely will get confirmed. And my contention is probably he won't last, but I don't know that Trump wants or needs him to last. My hunch is he's going to get into that position, learn a few ropes in that position, and then immediately go ahead and work for defense contractors, having all that inside information that defense contractors pretty much want to know. In other words, go there, implement Donald Trump's policies that or start the implementation of the policies, move on over to the defense contractor, give them the heads up, and then immediately, there you go, you're marketable. And you know how you know that? Elizabeth Warren did a very important thing. She points out that Hegseth has constantly said, hey, the generals, all those generals in the forces, they should be forced to wait 10 years before they go work for a defense contractor. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. But what about you, Pete Hegseth? What about you? Let's listen to how Elizabeth Warren got to him, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk with you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because it's not
about
one
it right now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job.
I understand that. I just need a yes or no here.
Come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be at the Defense Department. In other words,
you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president is.
I'll bet you would.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
And that is the issue. Think about what's happening there. If you are that person that is serving the country, you are the person that's putting your life on the line, right? You don't have to go ahead. You have to wait before you kind of make money on your experience with the defense contractors. But moi, I am the head guy. I'm the guy on top. I am the plutocrat. I am the oligarch, or I will be the oligarch. So when I leave government, I can go ahead and work for the defense contractors, not to worry about time. And you know what is sad about it? That it is, these guys think that this is so normal that they don't even have to lie about it and say, oh, well, I won't work for 10 years, even if they go against their word later on. They don't even have to lie about it because there's something within them that they want you to know that they can do as they please. That is why Donald Trump is stuffing nominees that are unqualified through the system, just to show if I want to do it, I can do it. And I will do it. Yeah, Hegseth will be a failure. The people under him, the state, they'll be the one running the department. But again, he'll be the one getting the spoils. I don't have the time to play the second video, but the second video is where Tammy Duckworth questioned him, and she proved the incompetent buffoon that he actually is. The guy he's going to be he's going to lead the entire Defense Department, and he couldn't talk about the ASEAN nations. He couldn't give what the defense, the Secretary of Defense should know. This guy that should be advising the president. The president has failed upward. This guy has failed upward. Hegseth has failed upward. They like to talk about DEI, but the privilege of being a failure like Donald Trump, the privilege of being a failure like Hegseth, a complete disregard for his immoral ineptitude, depravity. But he can get the big positions. And these guys have the nerve to talk about DEI. Betty, come on in.
Alberto. Good morning.
How you doing, beautiful? Good morning.
Yeah. Well, you talk about Cuba. My time with Cuba was Oswald. And he was caught on camera handing out flyers, I think it was in Havana, against America. And then he came home and did what he did to, our president. His wife was from Russia. And, and whenever Khrushchev looked into John Kennedy's blue steels, he packed up and head them out. And Fidel, he was wild. He was not good to his people. He took their land and house and put women and children under house arrest, for I don't know how long. But anyway, my Cuba is not, not the best because my memories of, mostly John Kennedy. Anyway, I love you. That's my thought.
Betty, before you go, I love that you listen to the program. At some point, we're going to do a program on Cuba. I want to remind you something, and I ask you to sleep on this. Remember, just like how they're getting rid of they hope to get rid of TikTok on the 19th, right? They think that TikTok will be gone because they say TikTok is the Chinese are using TikTok to indoctrinate us. There's another story there. And at some point in time, we need to get the entire story. We can't believe everything that's been told to us throughout the time. And the good thing about what we do here is we expose that. So sometime we do a show on Cuba, and I hope that you'll be there to listen. Okay, sister?
Yeah, I will, because it was very important to me, because that involved,
yes,
Robert Kennedy.
Absolutely, absolutely, and remember that the reality about who actually killed Kennedy and how did Oswald get to be able to. I mean, there are a lot of things there that folks have to realize.
Yeah, he was
a lot of stuff we don't know. Yeah, thank you very much, sister.
Yeah,
love you, girl.
It's something I live with, and it's horror. But anyway, I love y'all, and thank you for including me on Cuba. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day, sis. Let's go to Bart. Come on in, Bart.
Now I understand why Betty's a communist. She's from Cuba.
She's not from Cuba. Whoa. No, she's not. Betty is a born, red-blooded American. She's not from Cuba. Go ahead, continue.
You know who else spent a lot of time in Cuba? Was the mayor of Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
She studied to be a communist. She's been there 13 times. I wonder why that is.
Actually, if I could go to Cuba 13 times, I would. The food is great, man. Those ripe plantain, black beans, and rice, and some good mondongo and guisado. Oh man, it's great. Anyway, what's up?
Well, I hear that you're against the generals working for the defense contractors and the weapons manufacturers after they retire. This is the first I've ever heard of that. I've never heard.
Oh, really?
Against that before.
Well, I'm glad you listen all the time, because then you get a chance to learn a lot more about what we think about here. But continue, my brother.
Well, I'm glad you're finally speaking out about it. But Pete Hegseth, with all the screaming and crying and them going after him, I know this is the right choice for that position.
Okay.
With the Democrats. And I can't believe you're bringing up the lady, what's her name? That was
Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, Pocahontas.
I love her.
Pocahontas. The Indian. She's claiming she's an American Indian. And she's there questioning anybody. She shouldn't be allowed to question anybody. She should actually resign in disgrace from her record.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a free country. Anyway, thank you very much, my dear Bard. You have a good one. Let's jump to Luis. Is that the same Luis?
Yesterday.
Come on in, Luis.
I've bit my tongue for a really long time. And I know that the Simón Bolívar is the currency of Venezuela. It used to be 7 billion bolivars to the dollar, and in a short period of time, it became 700 Bs to the dollar. You've ruined that country. Don't come over here and ruin this country, okay, my brother?
Okay, my brother. Let me ask you this. Hold on a second. Hold on, Luis. Don't leave. Let me ask you something real simple.
You're biased. It's obviously you're biased.
Luis, I'm glad you don't need to hold your tongue ever. You can always call and have a conversation.
You hang up on all the guys you don't like Brian.
Luis, you can always call here. My question to you, what I said about the distribution of our natural resources, do you disagree with that?
You've picked on the wrong guy, Mr.
I asked you a question. I asked you a question.
No. You've ruined Venezuela. Don't come here and ruin this country too. Okay?
What, sir? First of all, this is my country. This is not your country only. This is also my country.
The country that you
Sir. Hey, Luis, this isn't your country solely. This is our country.
That's right. It's our country, not yours.
Our country. Exactly. No, it's our country. And if I have ideas, sir,
now you came over, you're claiming this country to be your country, and you're going to ruin this country
my brother.
Spewing out to the rest of the world.
You have to speak once at a time, sir. Yes, if you would tell me, sir,
incorrect.
Sir, if you tell me what points that I have made specifically is incorrect. In other words, don't just go from the.
Don't about a year, and you have been incorrect on everything.
Sir, today I gave a particular issue
fueled
on
and
land.
Paid by a machine, and you're still fueling that machine by spewing out what you're being paid to say. Yeah,
I wish somebody would pay me. I wouldn't be so broke. I gave up a lucrative business to do this, sir. Louis,
so you're voluntarily destroying the
Louis, here's the deal.
Voluntarily ruling.
Louis, there's a conversation. I don't want to let you go yet. Don't let Louis go yet. Louis.
Go ahead, my brother.
Stop.
One day you're going to be what? Fired.
Louis, listen to me. Louis. I am not. They can't fire me. I don't get paid. I'm here. This is free. You're getting this for free. I am volunteering. Okay. I can't be fired. Okay, now here's the deal, Louis. I want to ask Louis.
Trust me, I know you can.
I'm going to try one more time, Louis.
Sure,
today,
go ahead.
Today, I mentioned. I asked. You said I am wrong about everything. I mentioned one topic today about the distribution of the resources from our land.
I've listened to you for a year.
I'm asking you about one topic, sir. I'm asking you about one topic. Do you agree with what I said about the land or not?
American.
Okay, goodbye. Goodbye. Take Louis off. Folks, I want you to understand Louis right there. If you notice, Louis cannot address issues. He can only be a talking point. That's the problem with our country right now. I'm at 54, so I'm going to take Mike for 45 seconds and Brian for 45 seconds. Come on in, Mike.
Hello, Egberto. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, brother. Talk to me.
I listen to you as much as I can. There's Brian, the fellow that just got off, and that Sparks guy. They're totally disrespectful to you on your show. I used to listen to Joe Mattis and the Black people on the Power.
He's a friend. Yes. He's dead now, but he's a friend of mine.
Guys, yes. And Mark Thompson was on there. Bernie McCain was on there also. When you get callers like that who do not disrespect you on the air openly, Egberto, they don't deserve to come on your show and be heard because they would not be as combative to other stations or other talk show hosts like they are to you. This is your show. I like your show. You're the authority. Do not relinquish your authority because you prefer to have a listener. You don't like the damn show, man. Don't listen.
Thank you, brother.
Okay?
I appreciate you too, Mike. Thank you for the call, Mike. I gotta jump to Brian, and I'm going to take your advice with Brian. Brian, come on in. Be civil.
Yeah. No, I'm always civil if you don't cut me off. Now, do you know Jack Smith resigned in disgrace? Because he knew that he could not. Thank you for cutting me off. Really? Okay. Now, he put out a report stating there was no way he could win on the charges against Trump. There was no way he could win, and he said it himself. Now, who disrespects who?
Oh, my God. Where are you getting your news? Jack Smith says if Trump did not become president, he is absolutely sure he would get a conviction. That is what Jack said 2 days ago. And you said the complete opposite. Where do you get your news? It's even written, sir. Anyway, gotta go. We gotta go to the studio. Thank you very much, Brian. Hey, studio, it's all yours.
Yeah, I read the Jack Smith report, and he could have gotten a conviction on Trump. So I don't know where Brian is getting his information, but it's not any place that we know about. He just likes to make up stuff.
That is amazing. Anyway, anything from you, Brother Jack?
No, he's busy. So take it home, Egberto.
Thank you, brother. Anyway, folks, look, guys, love you all. I hope. Listen, before I go, I just want to say something. You see that caller that he couldn't say anything that is wrong. He just knew that I was wrong. Anyway, folks, the rest of the story is at politicsandright.com/newsletter. politicsandright.com/newsletter. We have a couple more videos there. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics and Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics and Right, comes from politicsandright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will